If the global supply of just 17 obscure elements were to stop today, the digital world wouldn't vanish instantly. But as our current hardware begins to fail, we would find it completely impossible to repair or replace. Smartphones, server racks, and fiber optic networks would eventually go quiet, with no way to build them back. These are the rare earth metals. You don't need to be a chemist to understand their value, but elements like gadolinium, lanthanum, yttrium, and erbium are the specific requirements for our screens and the amplifiers that keep the internet moving. Their utility comes down to physics. Inside your phone, miniature coils use a paper-thin magnet to vibrate the speaker's diaphragm. To create sound that clear in a device that small, you need the unique magnetic strength of an element called neodymium. From the vibration motors in your pocket to the signal boosters under the ocean, the infrastructure of modern communication is built on the specialized behavior of these microscopic elements. This dependency scales up as the machines get larger. In the electric vehicle market, neodymium magnets are what allow a motor to efficiently convert battery power into motion. The scale is even more lopsided in green energy. A single offshore wind turbine can require nearly a full metric ton of neodymium and 180 kilograms of dysprosium just to function as a generator. Even traditional power grids rely on them. Nuclear reactors use control rods laced with the element europium to regulate the atomic reaction inside the core. Despite their necessity, these metals are almost entirely absent from European industry. Currently, the EU imports roughly 98% of its rare earth supply from a single source, China. It means the Western transition to high-tech, carbon-neutral infrastructure is currently tied to a supply chain it has no geographic control over. This wasn't an accident of nature, it was a deliberate strategy. In the 1980s, Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping noted the strategic parallel between his country's mineral reserves and the Middle East's oil. By 2010, China had secured an effective monopoly. They achieved this through aggressive market pricing that made domestic mining elsewhere unprofitable, and by trading infrastructure projects in Africa for exclusive mineral rights. The commercial barrier to entry is massive. Rare earths are not actually rare, but they are difficult to extract. You have to process vast quantities of raw ore just to retrieve a few grams of usable metal. Separating elements in open-air pools creates massive waste laced with radioactive thorium. By ignoring environmental restrictions, China kept production costs low, creating toxic tailings lakes in Baotou. The expanding groundwater contamination eventually turned nearby residential areas into abandoned cancer villages. China captured the market by accepting environmental and social costs that Western competitors were unwilling or unable to pay. This market dominance eventually became overwhelming political leverage. Over the last decade, strategic export shifts and price swings have allowed Beijing to use its mineral supply as a diplomatic tool. This created an existential problem for Western defense. Rare earths are required for advanced weaponry, from night vision and secure communications to stealth coatings and missile guidance. A single F-35 fighter jet requires about 420 kilograms of rare earth elements to operate its sophisticated flight systems. A Virginia-class nuclear submarine requires nearly 10 times that amount. This leaves the Western military apparatus in a vulnerable position, relying on its primary geopolitical rival for the materials needed to build its own defense. In January 2023, that dynamic shifted. The Swedish mining company LKAB announced the discovery of the Per Geir deposit in Kiruna. It contains over 1 million tons of rare earth elements. Its value is largely a matter of geography. Because the deposit is adjacent to an existing iron mine, it utilizes established infrastructure, removing the need for the destructive greenfield projects that usually stall mining in Europe. The geology here is also more efficient. Miners can extract iron and apatite, a source of phosphorus, alongside the rare earths. This turns what is usually a wasteful process into a multi-stream industrial operation. Sweden has demonstrated that domestic, commercially viable extraction is possible within the EU's stricter environmental framework. To put the million-ton find in context, the entire EU demand was only 1,400 tons in 2020. Even as demand is projected to reach 10,000 tons by 2050, the Kiruna deposit provides a buffer that could last for generations. This allows for a shorter, more secure supply chain. We are already seeing European automakers plan factories near the mine. And offshore wind projects in the North Sea can now look toward a local source for their magnets. By bridging this gap, Sweden reduces a major point of geopolitical friction. It provides Europe with a path toward technological self-reliance and positions the Swedish mining industry at the center of the next industrial era.